Today on our 2014 Chevrolet Sonic, we're going to be taking a look at and installing the Blue Ox baseplate kit with removable arms, part number BX1703. Here's what this baseplate is going to look like once it's installed on the vehicle. As you can see, it gives us a pretty clean look overall because nothing really juts out very far from the front fascia here. The most noticeable part is going to be the safety chain connection points, which just come out a little bit past the front of this license plate here. It has these two mounting rods that you can mount electrical brackets to for connectors such as your 4-round or 6-round so that it can connect to your motorhome. It does come with an L bracket to mount up a breakaway switch. The breakaway switch itself does not come with it because that would come with your supplemental braking system, but it comes with the bracket in order to help you mount that up. You've got the two safety chain connection points that are right here at the bottom corners of the license plate frame. And then you've got your mounting tabs here coming out of the fascia on either side of the license plate. What's really nice about this base plate is how easy it is to use. When you're getting ready to hit the road, in order to get ready to hook up to your tow bar, you can just slide your arms in, push them down so that pin collapses, turn it until it locks into place. Then that's not going to go anywhere, and you're ready to pull once you've got all of your other things connected. And whenever you're done, and you want to take these back out, you pull on the key ring so that that pin comes out, turn it, and remove them until you're ready to use it again. Something that's really nice about this Blue Ox base plate that you don't get with other base plates that we sell is that there is an adapter that you can get so that you can use this base plate with a Roadmaster tow bar. You don't have to use only a Blue Ox tow bar. Now, let's show you how to install it. First thing we'll need to do is begin removing our front fascia. And underneath the hood, there's going to be 6 push pin fasteners and 4 bolts. You can take a flathead screwdriver and get under the edge of the push pins and work the center up. You can get under the edge of it and pull the body right out. And then we'll do that for the rest of them. Then we'll remove the bolts using a 10mm socket. We've got 4 screws inside the fender here. And we need a T20 Torx bit in order to remove them. Then we'll repeat that process for the other side. Now there's 2 more T20 Torx screws that we'll need to take out. And then there'll be 2 in the same position on the other side. And there's 2 T20 Torx screws that are along the front corners of this little air deflector underneath that we'll need to remove. Then another push pin fastener. Then there's 2 13mm bolts that we'll need to take out. Then finally, there's 1 more Torx screw just on the front side of this air dam underneath. Now underneath, on the little tab here, there's 2 Phillips head screws that we'll need to remove. 1 on each side. Now we can begin working our front fascia off, and we'll start here where it meets the fender and begin pulling outward to unclip the connectors there that hold it in place. Then we'll just work around the front, get it popped out. Then we'll gently work it off a short ways. And then down here on the passenger side, there's an electrical connector that we'll have to remove. You need to remove this little gray clip. You can take a small screwdriver and press down on the tab in the center. Then you can pull that clip out and set that aside. And then squeeze down on the tab and remove your connector. Then we'll take our fascia all the way off and carefully set it off to the side, somewhere where it won't get damaged. Now we'll need to take a 13mm socket and remove the bolts that hold in this fascia support bracket. There will be 3 bolts on each side. We'll take that and set it off to the side. Now I've marked this plastic shroud according to the instructions so that I'll be cutting out that area And I'll do that same thing on both sides so that the base plate can slide up into place. So you can use a utility knife or a pair of shears if you have them. Or if you have a rotary tool like a Dremel, you can also use that. Now on this section of the frame right here, I've marked according to the instructions the area that we'll need to trim out so that we can make sure our base plate will fit up around there to the outside edge of the frame rail. So you can use a grinder with a cutting wheel or a reciprocating saw in order to cut this out. And then we'll repeat that same process for the other side of the bumper. Now we'll remove this horn before we slide our base plate up into position, because with the horn out of the way, it'll give us more room to work over here where we're going to need to drill some holes. And the nut on this side is a 13 millimeter. We'll take that and we can just rest it out of the way. Now we can take our base plate and slide it up into position. And then we can use a jack stand to help support it. So now with our base plate up into position, you want to get it as far back as you can against this rail here. And you also want to try to get the top of this as flush as you can with the top of the frame rail. Then once you've got that in position there, this lower hole over here on the side, we'll drill out a pilot hole so we can drill that out. Then I'll step up drill bit sizes until I've reached the final size in order to get the bolt to go through. Now in order to secure our bolts in there, we'll be using these nut plates that have the stem coming off of them. And what we'll need to do is we'll be sending them in through this hole here in the end of the frame rail. And we'll need to bend the handle on it in order to get it to line up with that hole. And before you put these in, because of the coating that's on them, it's a good idea to take your bolt and run it through just to make it sure that it'll thread in nicely and isn't going to stick. Then on each of our 3/8 bolts that we'll be installing, we're going to need to put some red Loctite. And this red Loctite does not come with the kit, so you can pick some of that up on our site, part number LT37420. You just want to put a nice little bit on the end of the threads there, because then this Loctite will dry up and help make sure that the threads stay locked in and that it doesn't risk backing out over the life of this being installed. And we'll be putting that red Loctite on all of our hardware that secures this base plate to the vehicle. Now we can slide our handle nut in there. You may have to make some minor adjustments. Then we'll repeat that process for the other side. Now we can begin drilling out our other 2 holes here on the side and the one that's down in the front underneath the bumper. Then for these 2 holes, I'll repeat the same process I did in order to get this bolt started using the handle nut. Then we'll use a handle nut to go on the back side here of this hole we drilled and thread in one of our 3/8 bolts. Now I'll use a 9/16 socket in order to begin tightening these down. And we'll be sure to repeat that process for both sides. Now I'll be sure to torque these to the specification listed in the instructions. And then we'll repeat that process for the other side. Now that we've got all of our hardware tightened, you want to be sure to go back and all these handles from the handle nuts, you want to be sure to either bend those to where they're not sticking out or cut them off. And I'm going to use a cutting wheel on a grinder just to cut them flush. Then you want to route your safety cables I routed them around where the frame comes down to meet the subframe there, and routed them around and came back and used the quick links provided to the kit in order to connect this one. And I did the one on the other side the same way. There's this L bracket that comes with the kit for mounting up the breakaway switch. So if you have a breakaway switch for a supplemental braking system, now would be a good time to mount that up. You want to put it in a location where you'll have good access to it. You can use your drill bit to mark where you'll drill out, and then take the bracket down and drill out your pilot hole. And it's not a bad idea once you've got your pilot hole drilled out to run your self-tapping screw in there just to make sure that you know it'll go in there nicely. Then we'll grab our bracket and install it. So now I'll take the breakaway switch that comes with the supplemental braking system, which isn't included with the baseplate kit, and I'll install it. Then I'll use a 7/16 wrench and socket to tighten that up. Now we can reinstall our horn. Now we'll reinstall our fascia support. Now we can take our front fascia and we'll test fit it onto the vehicle so we can see what areas we're going to need to trim out in order to get everything to come through. Right, now on this one, because of where those rods for the electrical bracket come out and where the safety chain connection points come out are right at the lower edge of this license plate frame, we're going to need to take this license plate frame and move it up just a little bit. So if you take the license plate off, which I've already done, then there's 2 Phillips head screws underneath. Remove those. And you can take the frame, and here's this little tab on the back that goes right in between some of the slots in the grill. So we'll want to make sure that that gets reinserted, and we'll move it up a little bit so that way we've got more clearance under here. And then we'll reinstall the screws. Now I've marked the areas that I'm going to be cutting out. So I'm going to cut out a section here in the center for the mounting rods to come through. And then over here, we'll be cutting most of this out so that the breakaway switch and then safety chain connection point will come through over here, and then the other safety chain connection point. And then we'll test fit it again to be able to get it onto the vehicle further to see what we'll need to cut out in order to have access to our tabs for our removable arms. Now we can test fit the fascia again. And you may have to do this a few times in order to get it just right. After test fitting the fascia one more time, we found where we need to cut in order to gain access to our tabs. So we cut around here so that both tabs could come through that fascia. Now we'll finish putting our fascia back into place. And don't forget, as you reinstall your fascia, to plug that electrical connector back in that you removed when you took it off. Now we can begin reinstalling all of our fasteners. That's going to complete our look at and installation of the Blue Ox baseplate kit with removable arms, part number BX1703 on our 2014 Chevrolet Sonic.
Click the link below to shop, learn more, or visit us at etrailer.com.